And welcome back for yet another week of Behind the Lens. It is hard to believe we are already in the middle of August, the second week of August. Welcome. I am film critic, creator and host of Behind the Lens. You can find my movie reviews and interviews in the U.S. and abroad, in print and online, on behindthelensonline.net. But every Monday, right here at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Adrenaline Radio with Behind the Lens. And today, I am so excited to have back again.
I'm back.
JENNESS ROUSE is in the house.
Hooray.
Well, that's you just have so many projects going on.
I do.
Though,
it's insane.
Yeah, that we can just do like whole shows of each project.
Well, thank you.
It works out
Makes me
that
feel
way.
good. Yeah.
And of course, then a guest that both of us are looking forward to, calling in at 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Mathieu is going to talk all about his new film, which opens on Friday, The Monster Project. And I think JENNESS summarized it best: classic horror.
Classic horror. It is your classic horror film the way horror films are supposed to be made.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
Literally.
so we're both excited that Victor's going to be calling in, because for those of you that weren't tuning in 2 weeks ago, and shame on you if you weren't, you didn't listen to the iTunes podcast afterwards. Yeah, JENNESS is a very talented filmmaker. She has her TV pilot that is currently out there, Becca on Call, which is just absolutely, it is so much fun.
Yeah, it's starting to, the world premiere was back in June, and now it's starting to, this is festival season. Festival season just started really picking up steam. So it's going to be being premiered and aired at different festivals. So people will finally start to be able to
it's
see
in
it.
Alabama the end of this month.
Alabama end of this month. It's going to be in Texas next month. And there are some other festivals that I cannot share.
But Texas is
it.
your home stomping ground.
It is. That's where I started.
So are all the hometown folk going to get to see it?
Yeah, eventually. If we have to do a private screening, there was talk of doing a private screening at my school, Trinity School, which we shot a scene there.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that potential of doing a private kind of, hey guys, if you're an alumnus of Trinity, you could do this. So,
or you can try and do this.
Yeah. Well, my class was a very unique class. We had some Broadway singers and Broadway producers come out of my high school class. Not only my class, but also some people who are a couple years ahead of me. They are now Tony Award-winning directors and producers on Broadway. So, it's just that 4-year group, really, we just had a lot of little starlets come out of us. So
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
But one thing that I do know is that you are so, so talented.
Oh, thank you.
You write, you direct, you produce.
Sing.
Classically trained, no less. You do it all.
Yeah.
As you have called yourself, Jacqueline of all trades. And I love that. I just think that's so fun.
Well, one of the things that the LA industry, when I moved to LA, that I found out very, very quickly is it's a lot of hurry up and wait. And I had to kind of get a feel for how LA worked, working with some people and just observing. And finally, last summer was when I live launched Rising Monarch Productions to really start creating my own work. Filmed Back on Call last fall, and then started pitching it. Didn't know what would happen with it, but I also found out that, okay, so that's the film world, but I'm still just sitting. So what else can I do while I'm waiting for, report back from Back on Call, see if it even goes anywhere.
Right.
And that's when I started the RMP Concerts, Rising Monarch Productions concerts. And that's from my stage background, the Broadway background. And it originally started with my friend Steven, who is in New York, Broadway singer. And he and I sang opera and Broadway back in Texas in our music school at Odessa College. And he was coming to LA, just brief, fun trip. And I said, Steven, do you want to sing? He's like, yeah. So I started looking for any kind of parties. It was Valentine's weekend. So I started looking for parties. Anybody who might want a couple of singers to sing some duets. Nothing was going on. If they had a party, we were not invited. So
How rude.
Well, I mean, I don't really run those circles, but I finally, it's that whole thing of you can either wait for somebody else to do something and then hope that you get selected, or you can go out and do your own thing.
Right.
And so what I started with was, well, what if we put on our own little duet concert? And that was at a coffee shop in February. And we had about 15 people show up. But the feedback that we got from some people who are just stragglers, there were a lot of people who were walking on the sidewalk who were peering in. There was so much construction going on all around Wilshire that it was just noise. But people heard the music and they came in and said, what is this?
Wow.
Is she singing anywhere else? And that kind of got me thinking, well, maybe I need to make this into something. And that started the whole RMP Concert program, where it's a monthly concert and change venues from the coffee shop to the Hudson Theatres. And we do this once a month where I will set a theme and we'll have guest musicians, guest actors on occasion that will do different sketches, or now with the guest musicians, like in our next one, they will be performing some music. And of course, the music that I sing, it's all according to the theme for that concert.
And, everybody, when you watch the video, this is it.
R&B Concert. It's time again.
It's time again because this was your theme for July.
For July.
Times and Seasons.
Times and Seasons. And the thing about July, that was the first one where we really showcased a musician. And it seemed to generate even more feedback than the sketches. And it's not saying that the sketches won't be brought back in. It's just when you see a door, this is something that I have learned in LA. When you see a door, even if it's not the door you were thinking you're going to go through, you go through it. If the door is opening, you walk through that door. And she was my guest for the last one. She's from a French music group, Sonatas and Duo. It was just her. She's a harpist. Beautiful harp sound. She recently moved in from France just 3 months ago to LA. Talent beyond talent. And we did a couple of duets together. She had a couple of solos. And the music for its time, we did some Enya, we did some classic Broadway, and a little bit of even soundtrack from the Summer 42 70s or 60s film.
70s,
Yeah. So when I started hearing what people were saying about that concert, I really wanted her husband, Mywin's husband, to be a part of the same music, because a couple of the songs that we did had saxophone solos. And he's a sax player.
Okay.
And they are the full Sonatas and Duo music group. And when I started, talking to my band, the RMP Concert Band, and to Mywin, and finally to Willie, would you be interested in doing this again? Maybe use some of the same songs, but switch out with some jazz numbers, really showcase both of you as a music group, but as well as the jazz sax player. And that's why it's kind of an encore. And we're doing some of the same songs because some of those songs had saxophone solos that we weren't able to do.
And now you can do it.
And now we can do it. So we're going to be doing that. But then Willie will be able to have kind of a showcase number that I will duet with him, Autumn Leaves. And, of course, Mywin and I will do our duet. And then Sonatas and Duo, the sax and harp duet, which you would never think that would be a duet. It's this juxtaposition of band and strings, and it is, or brass and strings, and it is gorgeous.
Wow.
You would never think it would work, but when you hear them play, of course, they're a husband and wife, so automatically they already have that kind of
that ebb and flow,
that union already going on. So when you bring that into music, it's dynamite gorgeous.
And then your band will also be performing.
Yes, my band, they are all very talented, experienced band players. They've played with everybody. And I would butcher the list of musicians that they played with, but they played with everybody for years.
So it's essentially your own set of studio musicians.
Own set of studio
your
musicians.
own wrecking crew.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got people from the Sam Ash Music Store on Sunset Boulevard coming in. That's Scotty V. He's strings and background vocals, and he's been everywhere, played with everyone.
Okay.
Then you've got Andrew Butler, who plays bass, same as Scotty. They both work at Sam Ash. Then we've got Brad Watson on keys. Now, he played with me on the Valentine's concert with Steven.
Okay.
So he's been with me since the very beginning,
Oh.
and he's a band pianist with classical training, so he can play just about anything you put in front of him. And then we've got Mr. Bobby Mcbride, who joined us last time as our drummer. Incredibly talented drummer. And he showed me when at our first rehearsal where I met him for the first time, he said, okay, so I know you like butterflies. And then he pulls out I think it's his snare drum. There are butterflies all around his snare drum. So I was like, it's a match made in heaven. Wow. So we've got just a really great ensemble that not only supporting me, but then I can bring in talented musicians or talented actors to really create a unified story. Because I set the tone, I set the theme for this, not only the theme for the concert, but I also interact with my audience. When I come out, I expect the audience to participate. It's a lot more fun for an audience in a live show if they're actually engaged.
Right.
And they're talking with the host or the hostess. Not just clapping, not just going, oh, this is entertaining. That's the movie theater.
Right.
This is live theater. And live theater is meant, there's a different energy. So when you come to my show, you're going to be participating in it. You're going to be laughing. You're going to be talking, answering questions. And it's very engaging, and it's far more effective in the sense of you will remember it because you used all of your senses. You of course, the smell of the theater. Every theater has its own smell.
It's true.
Your audio, your visual, but then you're also speaking. You're participating, you're touching it by being involved.
Right.
So it's a great, awesome show. It's just I can only do one once a month. So I wish I could do them every weekend, but that's not where we are right now. So it's still a concept show.
Now, the Hudson Theatres, how did you get entangled with Hudson Theatres as a venue?
They just liked me when I walked in.
Oh my goodness.
I just walked in. I emailed. I said, I'm looking for a venue. Just started. Only done 2 coffee shop shows. And we had way outgrown it. And I just was looking for other venues. I had gone down Theater Row just asking different people. I walk into the Hudson and I had talked to, I think it was Zeke is the guy in charge. And I had emailed him, I only do this once a month right now. Would it be possible that you would allow us to come in? We'd set up day of, strike day of, just it's real simple. It's more about the people being brought in than it is about the show.
Right.
And there were, go for it. Come on in. Enjoy yourself. And they are fabulous. We're in the backstage, which is the biggest theater. It's my favorite theater of the group. So it's very much reminds me of the black box theaters that you see off Broadway. And it's a 99-seat theater, which is perfect for when you're a startup kind of stage show. And it still has the feeling of what could be a television set. I think Comedy Central does some of their stuff in the same venue. So it's still got that feel.
Right.
But it's large enough that it has the off-Broadway show feel. So it's intimate. People can feel more engaged that way. But it's not so small that you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
So, but I love the people there. Tiffany, Harry, they're the ones that work with me. And then Bruce is my house manager who runs everything. And then my stage manager, Valerie. I just they are a family. And once you come in and you start working with them, they take so good care of you. And there's a little cafe outside so people can eat something before they go in. And it's just a beautiful setting and very rich atmosphere. You don't feel like you're in an old rickety theater. You feel like you're in a real solid theater when you walk in.
Because there are some that have that rickety feel.
Yes. Yeah. And the Hudson's kind of known. A lot of films have come out of optioned stage plays out of there. I know My Big Fat Greek Wedding was actually a stage play that started at the Hudson and I think it was in the backstage theater. It might have been in the main stage, but that's where they started. Was they just did that show over and over and over, and then a film studio picked it up and said, let's make this into a movie. So they have a great track record, and to be invited to be a part of their family has been an incredible honor and just a blessing, really.
Well, and let's let everybody know where Hudson Theater is. It's at 6539 Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. What's the nearest cross street there to give people an idea?
It's between Wilcox and Hudson. So it's right on Hudson, which the big street is Highland. You go if you go straight up Highland and then turn right, left, right. You turn right on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Okay.
It's right there. You will actually see the marquee for Hudson, and you will see the RMP Concerts. We're in the marquee. So our sign is, and it's got my little butterfly with my eyes. So no copyright infringements. Those are mine.
Yes.
But our RMP Concerts are in the marquee and in the sign next to Hudson Theatres. So it's pretty well seen, but it's right in the middle of Theater Row. So
how do you pick the theme for each of these shows?
Well, typically the week or about 10 days before the last show, I will start kind of humming a random song. And maybe it's a song that I've done, maybe it's a song I wanted to do. And this happened with for example, we were getting ready for their March concert, and I started humming The Circle of Life from Lion King. And then another song, which is Memory from Cats, started to come up in my mind, and I just started humming it. And then I started looking at it, and the songs come very quickly. And when you look at the song list, you kind of see a theme going on with it. Now, the story that I typically tell is developed as I'm getting ready for the next concert, but the songs come first. So for It's Time, for example, I actually had a break because I was debuting back on Call during June. But at the end of May, right after our Memorial Day concert, I started humming some songs. It's the Time Heals Everything, which is my classic standard that I sang in New York all over the place. And then Not a Day Goes By was a song that one of my Willie Falk, he's a Broadway singer, he was singing in our workshop and getting ready to go audition for some of his fabulous roles. Mr. Valjean, he ends up going and being Valjean off Broadway. So I'm like, okay, you just go and do your thing. But I was reminded of him and how he sang it. So I started looking at Not a Day Goes By. Then it hit me, day, time. And then I started thinking of other songs. Only Time, that's Enya. And then, of course, seasons. What are some seasons? And For Forever, that talks about summer. And then I asked Mywin when I was introduced to her, what do you know? And she's like, I really like this song called Summer. Have you ever heard of it? I had never heard of it. Barbara Streisand sings it for the soundtrack for Summer 42. And when I heard it, I was like, can I sing it with you? Because it's her solo. It's a harp solo.
Right.
And we kind of created the duet, and it's just gorgeous. So that's it starts off with songs, and then I'll write a story as the weeks progress. So
have you written a story for Saturday's performance?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. It's about time. It's about the seasons in our life, and I don't want to say too much, but I use references of my personal story, which I share in the concerts and my journey throughout life. I've overcome a lot of adversity in my life, so I talk about how when we face different life situations, how we can have hope going through it by looking at, in this story, how we look at the life of a tree. And spring, summer, fall, winter, up to spring again. So
okay. All right.
It's a secret. You can't give away too much.
No, you
Because then
can't.
nobody will come. So.
But, and she's walking away now, but talking about time and seasons.
Yeah.
We have to say happy birthday
to Miss
to
Pamela.
Yes, our wonderful sound engineer who has replaced Brian.
Yeah.
Who decided that, work and school just didn't coincide.
Well,
so
we love Pamela.
yes, we
It's
do.
her birthday. She's queen of the day, but she left her post.
She left her post. Yes. She's probably going to the restroom before Victor calls in 10 minutes.
TMI.
Yeah, since she has to answer.
Since she has to answer
the phone. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, I love the idea of how you, and that's something, and I've got to bring her up. I have to bring her up. Carol Cook.
Yes.
In Carol's one-woman shows.
Yes, that she would do.
She tells a story, and she always weaves in all of her life.
Yeah.
But she starts with the songs.
Yes. There's something about music that really captures your heart and your spirit.
Yeah.
That I'll give you an example with movies. Just a story is not going to cut it. But you add that music in. I remember when I was doing some editing and I was working with a production studio at the time, and we would have these scenes, and I just went, you got to add music. Otherwise, some of that acting it looks good, but I'm telling you, you lose your audience when you don't communicate the mood that you want the audience to feel, because that's what music does. It brings out your heart into it, and we don't really understand all of it.
Right.
But music just connects you to the emotion behind the story.
Yeah.
And when you watch a movie and you just watch the scene without the music, it loses something.
Yeah, because as good as actors can be, you can't always convey all of the emotion.
What they're feeling on the inside.
That's it. And that's where the music comes in as the undercurrent.
Yes, because it communicates to non-actors.
Right.
This is the emotion they're feeling. And that's why you have people going, oh, in the, in the audience, because not everybody thinks the way actors do. We're not all created creatively. Some of us are very logic, and it will fall deadpan on an audience unless you communicate with that music element. So, and in this, my version of the RMP Concert is I'm bringing balance. Because if you have just music, it's gorgeous, and people will know that it's gorgeous.
But what's the point?
But what's the point? So you got to speak something smart to our logical people who don't like necessarily some classical or Broadway or even jazz. That's not their thing. But you bring in a story where they start to understand the music. You bring in the mind to it, the left side of the brain versus the right side of the brain. You bring both sides of the brain into it.
Yeah.
It makes it far more fulfilling than if it was just right or left. So that's what the reason for the story is. And I did that even growing up when I would be listening to a CD. And one of them was the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas. There was one of those CDs that I actually wrote a story to, just listening to how the songs were put together. And I wrote out a fairy tale story according to those songs. No different than what Fantasia does.
Right.
But it's when you have a story, some people can hear the story when they're musicians, but some people can't.
Right.
And then you communicate the story, they will remember it more. So that's what the RMP concerts are about.
And of course, mentioning fairy tale. Oh, now she's back.
Now she's back.
We tell her happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Pam.
Yeah. She missed it before. She doesn't deserve another one then,
Well, it's her birthday.
That's true.
She gets forgiveness and grace.
That's
her
true.
birthday.
But you mentioned fairy tale. So I'm so excited about this book. I have to mention this book. This is the Princess April Morning Glory. It is a fairy tale. It is a storybook by Letitia Fairbanks. And for all you classic film fans out there, you know the name Fairbanks, as in Douglas and Mary Pickford. And this is Douglas's niece, who did this book back in 1941. And it is all hand done.
Calligraphy.
With illuminated calligraphy. All of the illustrations, everything was hand done by Letitia. This has been in the care and custody of her stepdaughter, Kelly Smoot Garrett. Kelly will be joining us on the show September 20th, and then before the Christmas holidays.
Yes.
And I had the pleasure of sitting down with her on Saturday, and I so wish you had been there, Jenness.
Oh.
You would have just died.
Gorgeous.
Number one, not just hearing all about the Fairbanks stories, because Kelly is also updating Letitia's book, The Fourth Musketeer. And she's been doing research at the Herrick Library all week, and still this week, pulling new photos and replacing them within the book to update it with new images that people haven't seen. But her pet project, though, is bringing Princess April Morning Glory to life, to the masses. You can get the book now on Amazon.
It's brilliantly illustrated.
It is so gorgeous.
What I was telling Debbie when she showed it to me was that what I love about it is if you look very closely, you can tell it's hand done because of those tiny imperfections which make it perfect. And it's the care and love that went into it. You can see it in every single stroke. It's got a very Renaissance-y, even medieval feel to it. Some of that calligraphy, some of the opening capital letters. There's a name for it where they picturize the capital letter, but just looking at the detail that she went through
and of course,
brilliantly colored.
The characters in here are all modeled after family members. Needless to say,
recognize some of them.
Prince Chivalry, I think every classic film fan will recognize as being the swashbuckling, even the mustache. Douglas Fairbanks. This is just so beautifully rendered. King is John Barrymore. But
you almost just want to stare at it before you actually read the story.
Yeah, it's so, and then to think, and here I was looking at these 3-foot-high parchment panels, the originals from 1941, and was just...
And that they were still in excellent condition.
Excellent condition.
After how many years? 70 now?
Yeah.
Pretty close?
Yeah. But what's so, and I mean, you can act, and to see, because you can't see it in the books, in the reproduction, but on the originals, you can actually see the illuminated outline of every one of these calligraphy letters.
My goodness.
It's not just calligraphy, it's illuminated calligraphy.
And from 1941 or in the 40s. I was trying to figure out how long it took her to actually make it. It doesn't say in the book, and that's probably a question for Kelly.
Yeah.
But it took her so many hours to just painstakingly make each and every single stroke, and then to add that illumination to it.
Yeah,
what kind of technology did they have then?
They didn't
do that,
which is why it didn't get published then. Because Kelly also has a whole notebook of all the letters that Letitia's father, Robert, that he sent to all these publishers trying to get, and all the rejection letters too. It's, oh my God, we love this, but
we don't know how to.
Yeah. They could not figure out how to, and then a couple of them had no vision at all and said, well, we don't really think there's a market for fairy tales like this.
Grief.
Well, and it's
only Sleeping Beauty came out from Disney. That's what it looks like. Even the calligraphy looks like the Disney,
the classic Grimm's fairy tales. Yes.
Yeah.
But what's so, and it amazed me. But what I love about the storybook is that the story, because Douglas Fairbanks, anybody that knows Douglas Fairbanks or has read any of his writings, because he wrote countless books about hope, inspiration, good deeds. He had a philosophy of do 3 good deeds every day. And this is Princess April Morning Glory sets about to do 3 good deeds.
Oh, 3 good deeds for today.
So, I mean, it's a wonderful legacy for Letitia, for Douglas Fairbanks, and to bring, and Kelly's very intent on bringing this idea of gentility and kindness back.
Yes.
In today's world.
Classic, just good society, good personage.
Yeah.
And bring it back to today. we're missing that classicness, and that's why,
Yeah.
like with our next guest, bringing in that classic horror, it's just people are looking for classic.
Yeah.
And even the RMP concerts, classic music.
Yeah.
You bring in the flair of modernity, but you also want to bring in that classic element because that's what lasts.
Uh-huh. Well, that's like last Sunday, we were both in Culver City with Talk About Classic with Alicia Mayer.
Yes. Yeah.
Doing a presentation on MGM. She is the great-grandniece of Louis B. Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
And the most outstanding and amazing presentation, photographs, anecdotes, private family stories.
Yeah. Of just what it takes to make that classic culture shift.
Yeah.
They shifted culture, but with the classic foundation.
Yeah.
Because it's when you have a trend, it's nothing wrong with trends, but trends come and go. When you set the foundation of something that's classic, that will last, that has that element that just resonates with humankind, and just the simplicity of who we are as people, it's going to last to the next generations.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw that in all the pictures, and I just still couldn't believe Alicia brought so many original photos.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
So many of those framed photos
were the originals.
And I was framing them, and it's like, oh my God.
This is the real thing. You'd almost feel like you're going to break it.
Yeah. Because some of those, it's like there were little typed and scotch taped where the tape is all yellow.
Oh,
and
wow.
type, a little type thing at the bottom as to what it was and what the event was. And others had the actual old inkwell ink identifying. And it's like, no, my hands were clean. I made sure my hands were clean.
Wearing gloves.
But I'm so thrilled you got to come and see that.
I got to see it. Yeah. And it's what is inspiring about it. He was just another creative person who wanted to create work, create entertainment. He went into it with just this genuine desire not to make millions and millions of money. That was not his desire. His desire was to create.
Yeah.
Create stories. How can we do this a better way? And there was something about theater, because he started in theater.
Yes, he did.
Is to really, it's what we entertainers do. We want our audiences to feel good. We want them to enjoy themselves. We're in the business of helping people.
Well, and
yeah,
and there again, L.B. Mayer, all of his films, all were based on his own moral code of family and, hope and happiness.
Yes.
And overcoming adversity.
Yeah, which in their lives, there was a lot of adversity going on.
Certainly was.
Tons of adversity, just in culture and in government and in... wasn't that the Great Depression? He went through the Great Depression a little bit, didn't he?
A little bit, yeah.
World War I was a major...
And the family came over from the Ukraine.
From the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And then the Spanish flu. There's just tons of adversity going on in everybody's lives that they wanted to create a safe place for people to go to feel good about themselves and to have hope to continue on.
Yeah.
And that's what... I know for me, that's one of the things that I love to do. I tell screenwriters and people that I meet with all the time, I'm interested if there's a happy ending.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of thing you go through, but as long as there's a happy ending, I'm sold.
See, that's always my big thing. I love the happy endings. I love the happy endings.
Yeah. Just,
Pam, since Victor hasn't called yet, let us take a short break while I try and hunt down the publicist and find out where he do be. So plug us into a short break, and we will be right back. And welcome back to Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, and with me in studio today is the fabulous JENNESS ROUSE. She is
here.
You're here, and now we are bringing on somebody else extremely fabulous that JENNESS and I are both thrilled to talk to. VICTOR MATHIEU. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my God. Okay, JENNESS and I are both in love with the Monster Project.
Very well done. Very well done.
Good to hear. Thank you.
This is, number one, it blows my mind, the fact that this is all practical effects. You didn't cheat and green screen it. Jim Benke's makeup and special visual effects are absolutely stunning. The wire work of your actors and stunt people is amazing, and to do it in such a claustrophobic kind of area for so many of the action sequences. I mean, Philip Sebald does an amazing job. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Monster Project.
I'm so happy to hear that. That's amazing.
Where did the idea for the Monster Project come from? It's a very unique premise. It's not like a Blair Witch Project by any stretch of the imagination. This is a very unique story.
Right. So I came up with it a while ago. I think about 4.5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I'd seen a movie called The Hamiltons. It's a vampire film, and I started getting the idea. Well, first of all, at the time, I was trying to find a way to make a movie, my first film, as my directorial debut, and I had been working for a while trying to develop a feature film of mine called Carnivo. It's a clown film about phobia of clowns, and I had a hard time raising financing for it because it's just quite an expensive film. And so Phil and I had become very good friends with Phil at the time. We were trying to find a way to make a movie together. And so I'd seen that movie, The Hamiltons, which I just mentioned, and it kind of gave me the idea, what if I made a film about a group of filmmakers that came into a house to interview a family of vampires. And then I realized that because I'm such a big fan of Goosebumps, especially growing up, and this video game called Escape from Horrorland that I played again and again, developed by or released by DreamWorks Interactive, it just inspired me so much. I love monsters so much. I thought it'd be cool and it's fun. And I kind of banked on the idea that people would like to see a movie with multiple types of monsters. And so that's how I came up about the idea of the Monster Project, which eventually developed to a story about a group of filmmakers interviewing a variety type of monsters. And with social media still present in today's society and life, we kind of incorporated the idea of Craigslist or doing online posts for monsters, and we thought it'd be kind of a fun concept. And to wrap it up real quick, I decided to give in I didn't want it to just be a found footage film, also because I realized that subgenre in horror kind of carries a negative connotation for a reason that I don't agree with, but I understand some of the people's reasons for that reason. So I decided to incorporate my love for video games, especially games like Call of Duty, which are all first-person point of view. I decided to incorporate that aspect into the film as well by putting the GoPro or first POV camera on top of my actor's forehead.
Well, and I think that now, Jenness, you also as a filmmaker, in addition to being an actress, I personally think I loved the GoPro that was on. So we got that first-person POV. I really thought that added a great intimacy to the proceedings and worked really, really well. So it put us in the moment. We weren't just watching. We actually got to experience.
Well, it had a very raw feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it could be real, and I think that was what you're trying to convey, because it's people who think they're monsters. That's the premise of it in the very beginning, and then they actually are. When you do it the way that you did it, it gives that raw reality feel that sends people away going, well, maybe, what if? And that's what I almost think sometimes horror does. It gets you, some of it's very fantasy, but this one had a very realness to it. And I wanted to commend you. I was telling Debbie about it. There was one scene, you add an element to this story, to the story that really touches home to real human life. And it was the interview with the vampire. That was my absolute favorite scene because of the rawness of Brian's character, and she just had his number. But there was just something, even just in how it was written, you could take that scene and even do that again and again in acting classes, because there's something just very real about it. And that's what the whole movie was. There's a realness to it that you lose if you do a lot of CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very well done from that perspective.
Thank you.
How difficult was it researching and crafting? Because we've all seen enough horror movies. Skinwalkers, I think fewer people are aware of or know the legends of, but vampires and, of course, demonic possession. What kind of research did you do in order to develop, in keeping it with lore and legacy, for developing the transformations that we see unfold?
Sure. So me and Soraya, we had to watch a lot of unpleasant videos during our research. I think that that gave us a lot of ideas. But I think that the first draft of our script eventually basically served as our research, because the original draft, the interviews with the monsters were a lot longer. We had a lot more facts included in the interviews, a lot more research included in the interviews, but then we had to cut that down because we didn't want to bore in the audience with an actual documentary. We wanted to keep it more narrative and keep the character development flowing. So we had to kind of make a lot of cuts of the actual factual information about the monsters and the lore, etc. But Shirai and I also decided and Corbin decided to also put our own take on the monsters. I particularly like the idea. I've never been a huge fan of. I like the classic idea that vampires burn when they step onto daylight. But I thought that it'd be nice and interesting to kind of do something different here and just kind of bring the idea that for her it's more like a hangover when you step out into the bright light of the sun. I thought it was kind of a cool take on that idea, and also kind of matches the playfulness of her character. As for Skinwalker, we respected the lore behind the creature, but we also kind of went more of the werewolf route, just because I'm a huge fan of werewolves, and I really do look forward to one day making a very great, interesting werewolf movie myself. So this was kind of my my first take at doing a werewolf movie as well.
Well, and something else.
As for the demon, this was kind of who played by Short, who also did a fantastic job portraying this poor girl possessed by the smiling man. We just kind of, I'm a huge fan of demonic movies, and they are the scariest by far for me. So I thought the Skinwalker was really cool. The vampire was fun, and the demon is just absolutely terrifying. And that's we went into a different route in terms of feel and, for each monster.
Well, and something else that you also did, Victor, is you made your filmmakers, all of them were flawed. They all had human flaws. So you set up this wonderful dynamic for, flawed people are going to attract evil. And but you do it so subtly with just little instances here and there where we're learning little things about each of the quote-unquote human characters. But I really like that. And there again, that goes to the reality, the realism.
Yeah.
And was that something that was important to you in developing the script?
Extremely important. That was the first thing we wanted to make sure we told writing the script. That's the one thing that I one of the main things that I do have to criticize about most, not all, but most found footage films, is that there's close to or completely no character development. They always just jump right into just people talking, and then things happen, and it's just a reaction of what happens. And for us, it was important to actually make a movie that where you at least hopefully you care about the characters, but where we actually introduced, and in the Monster Parties, you'll see in the first 40 minutes or so, there's a lot of character development, and it's more about the relationships of the characters as they begin the process of finding those monsters. But it's more about those relationships, what they're going through, and the problems that they have, especially our main character, and how people around him kind of are supporting him, which leads to our transition to the second act when they find out that he's in a way a liar. His weakness basically attracts monsters, and I think all of them have some interesting characteristic and qualities that lead to basically what happens in the film.
I'm curious. Did you storyboard this out? How did you work with Jim Benke on developing the look and the makeup and prosthetics for each of these monsters? Because it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no, Jim Beinke is just, first of all, I think that had him not come on board at the time when we were looking for investors, I don't think that this film, I'm sure we would have still made it. I just don't think it would have looked as good. Jim legitimized the film by coming on board. I had a pretty solid idea of what I wanted the Skinwalker to look like, but Jim brought also his own ideas to it, and I trust him because he's so talented. So he designed the Skinwalker and did something amazing with it. And same thing with the vampires. Jim and I had agreed from the get-go that we love the idea of two vampire teeth on each side, and et cetera. So and he did a bunch of prosthetics for them as well. So he's just very talented, and so we kind of tackled it together. And he and his team, because he also had quite a big team of people to create those monster prosthetics, et cetera. They just did an incredible job.
How closely did you and Jim work with Phil, your cinematographer? Because you're shooting a lot of this with night vision. I mean, it really, and in order to bring out all of the detail in the makeup and the prosthetics, you've really got to work with the DP to get the lighting right and still have the lighting that you need
to see it
to see it and convey the ambient nature of the scene. So how challenging was that? What kind of collaboration did the three of you have to develop that palette, that tonal bandwidth, so we could appreciate Jim's great work?
Well, first of all, Jim, Phil, and I got along really well from the get-go, and so we're really, really close friends. And then I think that, to be honest, filming it was rather challenging, very challenging, because we only had 15 days to shoot the entire film. And when you're looking at stunts almost every day and heavy special effects every day, just for example, applying all the fake tattoos on our vampire actress would take 3 to 4 hours, I think, then plus or combined with her prosthetics that they would have to add on to her, so 4 to 5 hours, something like that. And the Skinwalker and et cetera. So it was just between that and stunts, we were just very pressed for time, and so it was just kind of moving around all the time and speeding through it. But we had storyboarded, like you mentioned. I had my storyboard artist Richard Rios, who's fantastic. Him and I spent a lot of time getting the storyboards right before shooting. For all the action scenes. Everything that involved stunts or action sequences, those were storyboarded beforehand. So it's not like we decided to kind of go into that house and just roll the cameras and just see whatever came of it. We planned to film out very high detail beforehand, and then it was all about just executing the vision that I had while we had the time to do it. And to be honest with you, also we did fix the challenge during shooting that our monitors barely ever worked, so we were shooting blindly almost all the time. And we noticed halfway through filming the action scenes that the night vision, because we were shooting in night vision, we noticed that actually some of the special effects, the practical special effects that Jim had done, would get lost, especially blood, get lost when shooting in night vision. So we actually had to do a few quick reshoots. I think 3 months after principal shooting, just to kind of recapture some of these special effects that had been lost because of night vision, and which by the way was never mentioned. Anyone can put the record of anyone saying that shooting in night vision would actually kind of that the details in the latex and special effects would get lost. So that was kind of a challenge that we had to face during filming and after filming, just to kind of make sure that the monsters did look to their best ability on camera.
Well, and I'm glad you went back for some of the reshoots, because seeing pools of blood and things like that really does add, especially poor Jamal. I got to tell you, okay, Jenness is laughing. I love Jamal. His performance is great. The character is great. I love Jamal, and this poor guy gets his back shredded, and then all of a sudden he looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
But he's cool. He's cool.
He's cool.
I'm cool.
I mean, it's, I got to say, number one, he looks fabulous. The reshoots with him, really well done. Muriel, obviously you had some reshoots there for the pools of blood on the floor. But I got to ask, where did you find Jamal? Because he is just so much fun. I mean,
I'm so happy to question. So originally, a long time ago, when Try and I wrote the script, Phil was going to, so Jamal's character was originally going to be Phil, my DP. I was going to be Devin. And then there was our friend Brian Jensen was going to be Brian. And I think that was it originally at the time when we first wrote the very, very rough first draft. But eventually we kind of changed the path that we were taking with the film and rewrote the film and just kind of decided to make a real professional film. And so anyway, so I found Uriel and Stephen Flores, who plays the Skinwalker, and Shiori, who plays Shiori, and I think I'm missing some other actors right now in my head, but I found a lot of those actors while I was working on a show called Delusion. It's a LA live interactive play. And so I had a lot of my cast already casted a long time ago, about 3 years ago. They were already cast. And then the main character that was missing at the time was Jamal. So we found him, I think, on LA Casting. I was doing my own auditions for the very first round of auditions. Eventually we had a casting director come forward. I remember seeing a very funny profile picture of him. And so we invited him to audition. And he came in, and I remember just me, Phil, Shariah, we were all on the floor just laughing and dying. He just made us laugh. And he had such a positive and hilarious energy that, because Jamal's character originally was not named Jamal, and he was not a funny character. We didn't have that the comedic aspect parts of the script originally, and so he brought not only his energy to the film and was such a great actor, but he also made us add that comedic element into the script more so than what we had before into his character, which I really think did something very, very great and interesting for the film.
Yeah, it brought balance to it. If everything's so serious, it really loses its novelty. And when you have that comedic element, it really rounded it out. And he was that perfect timed. Whenever it was just so dark and so dense, then there's Jamal. And
Exactly.
But he's also a human character too, because he did have a little bit of a confrontation in there. But that made him real. But he was still. So he wasn't like out of bounds comedic in that sense, where someone's just like, okay, they're not real. He does have a human element to him, but he brought in that comedic aspect that really balanced everything out. And that's what makes this such a well-balanced classic horror flick. It's got everything you could possibly want. It'll probably go very, very far. Very well done.
No, and you know, it was actually a quite complex character for him to play, because he's also playing with the fact that he's kind of stuck between Brian and Devin.
Yes.
Devin being his boss, per se, pays him.
Yes.
And then Brian, who's his best friend, but then they're in conflict, so he's kind of the middleman who's facing the situation and trying to kind of control it and maintain it. But it's kind of a complicated character, and I thought that he handled it really nicely. So, you know, Jamal's a very passionate and talented actor that we all were very proud to work with.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's I said to Jenness before we went on air today, I said, I love Jamal. He really, because from the start, so everything that happens once horror starts to unfold, from the get-go, we find out his personality in the first scenes where he's in the car, where he's not charging the batteries on the camera. We know who this man is. And and that endears him to you. So already going in, the audience is going to connect with Jamal. He is your way in to, you know, that's who everybody is really going to, that's going to be the touchstone, I think, for the audience.
No idea what I'm doing, but I'm enjoying it. That's kind of Jamal. Yeah. I'm enjoying my life.
So how excited?
No, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
How excited are you, Victor? The film is now it's going to hit, theaters and VOD this Friday?
That's correct, yeah. We're premiering it at the Lemming Theater on Friday, and then I believe that, then it runs there for a week. I'm not sure about the other theaters just yet, but at Pictures are distributing it in a couple other screens around the country. And, it'll be available also everywhere on VOD. And we're very, very excited. And we hope that people will love it as much as you guys do. So, because we really like it, and we're very happy with
it has everything.
The end product.
Yeah, it's like what I was saying a little bit before. It has everything you could possibly want in a horror flick. Of course, it's got the gore, but it has the story element. It has all the different characters. Every character has their own point of view, and what you even coupled that with was their cameras. That's their point of view of what they're seeing unfolding, and it's got the happy elements, the romantic elements, the scary elements, of course,
the jealous
elements, the humanistic elements. Everyone's going to have something that they can relate to, in each character that they can relate to in this movie. And like I said before, that scene, there's that one interview. I keep going back to that. That one could be literally taken out, and somebody could do that in an acting class, or take that and do that in a workshop, because there's a real human element, and that's what people will relate to, is the human aspect, the human element. Jamal and his funny nature, and then him trying to play, hey, let's just keep it cool, guys. And then of course the boss, and everyone's going to be able to relate to this. And you could almost, this film and story was done in such a way that you could almost have sequels.
Oh yeah,
you could almost take this, you've got depending on how well this goes, you could take this and run with it. So very well done.
I'd sure like to.
Yeah. Well, maybe you and I can talk about it, because I've got ideas.
Jenness always has ideas, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, Victor, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I can't thank you.
Right.
I can't thank you enough for joining us on Behind the Lens today. This has been a real treat. I love this film. Jenness loves this film.
Yes.
And everybody needs to go see this film. And I personally am going to go see it in the theater, because I want to see it on the big, big screen.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your kind words.
Oh, and I hope you'll come back on the show again.
Whenever you want to have me, just
Monster Project 2.
Yes. Oh, Victor, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Victor Mathieu, writer, director of The Monster Project. And if we were doing thumbs up, we'd be giving it 2 thumbs up today.
Yeah, it's very well done. I mean, it's, when you look at it as a project as a whole, it's beautifully done. It's not something, you're not going to go out and just go, oh, I know exactly what happens. Or you're going to watch it as you would a classic horror flick.
And you don't know what's going to happen.
No.
You really don't.
No.
But something else people need to go see.
The RMP Concert.
Saturday.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Hudson Theatres, 6539 Santa Monica Boulevard.
$15 tickets online, or you can purchase them at the door at the Hudson box office. The box office opens 45 minutes before the show. So you just walk up, and then you can pay $20 at the door. Or you can bring your Eventbrite ticket, which you can purchase on aboutjenness.com or on our Facebook page at RMP Concerts. Or just Google Rising Monarch Productions Concerts, and you'll find it that way.
And you'll find it. Facebook, Twitter, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Just like Jenness, Jacqueline of all trades. She's everywhere. Well, we are out of time for the show. Thank you so much for coming yet again.
I love this.
She comes and she even helps me set dress and set up.
Of course.
This woman is fabulous.
Because it's fun.
It's fun.
It's something to do.
Well, and next week, I think Rachel Crowell is going to be joining us, and I think Amy Fox. And it's going to be a show with some new transgender shows that are coming out, and transgender actors and actresses being cast in those roles. So,
wow.
I'm very excited to have Rachel. I met her at LA Film Festival, and she is just fabulous. So I'm thrilled that she's going to be calling in.
Oh, that's great.
So until next time, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.